Awareness about sexual harassment of selected female students at Landi National High School. This study aims to educate the female students about the awareness of sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is a serious problem for all students, especially in females. Statement of the problem. Are the students of Landi National High School are aware of the types of sexual harassment such as physical, verbal or written, and visual? Number 2. How can being aware of sexual harassment help female students? What are the insights of Landi National High School female students about sexual harassment? In order to change the culture and climate in workplace, it is necessary to address sexual harassment in all its forms, not just the most egregious instances. Introduction. This study aims to educate the female students about the awareness of sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is a serious problem for all students, especially in females. This problem is more common than you might think because many students are scared or too embarrassed to report sexual harassment. Harassment can include unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical harassment. Psychological sexual harassment is a form of vexatious behavior that involves repeated hostile and unwanted words, behavior or actions that are painful, hurtful, annoying, humiliating, or insulting. Statement of the problem. Are the students of Landi National High School aware of the types of sexual harassment such as physical, verbal, or written, and visual? How can being aware of sexual harassment help female students? What are the insights of Landi National High School female students about sexual harassment? Significance of the study. This study is significant because it advances the field's understanding of how sexual harassment affects students' knowledge of its occurrence. The goal of this research paper is to clarify the awareness among female students regarding the sexual harassment law procedure provided to them in the Constitution. It is also hoped that this study will assist students who are victims of sexual harassment.
Review of related literature. This chapter includes research studies and ideas. This will also present to expand the knowledge in conducting this study. According to Canayo and Wadya 4, umalala ang a rotini there o umanido onequer Chizaram, Oliver Pucci, and whatever from should create support network, give one another confidence, overcoming their fears of abuse, and help victims turn into survivors. Synthesis of review literature. Sexual harassment is a pervasive organizational phenomenon that continues to plague individuals, students, organizations, and society. The dynamic of and pervasive qualities of sexual harassment have captured the attention of researchers from a variety of disciplines who have approached the task for identifying, describing, explaining, and predicting from competing explanations for research perspectives. This essay reviewed the findings and position of researchers in communication, counseling, law, management, psychology, social, and women studies. This chapter presents the findings and conclusion drawn from the literature in response to two questions about sexual harassment. Research design. When data for the study, the researcher uses a qualitative methodology and welcome sexual advance requests for sexual favors and other verbal or physical harassment of a sexual nature are all. Example of sexual harassment. In qualitative research, the process of phenomenology which focus on educating female students at Landi National High School who may encounter sexual harassment as a result of an occasion of phenomenon applies to this research study because it offers a true knowledge of sex and sex scenes and how it affects women and municipal police forces. The Phenomenological design was chosen. Research locale. The Landi National High School served as a location for the researcher data collection effort. It was implemented on female student. Additional, this research looked at ways to educate female students at Landi National High School.
Research instruments. The researchers use a questionnaire that is based on the topic of awareness about sexual harassment towards selected female students of Nandi National High School. This tool is economical because it can use to collect a large amount of information at a low cost per respondent. Besides, no interviewer involved to bias respondents' answers. The researchers use both closed-ended and open-ended types of questionnaires. Ethical consideration. Ethical consideration is a research. In the research are a set of principles that guide your research designs and practices. Researchers must always adhere to a specific code of conduct when collecting data from people. The goals of human research often include understanding real-life phenomena, studying effective treatments, investigating behaviors, and improving lives in other ways. Data gathering procedure. The data for this study gathers by the researchers using a printed survey questionnaire. The questions on the questionnaire were developed by the researchers from relevant research and studies.
Presentation, analysis, and interpretation of data. This qualitative case study examined the awareness about sexual harassment of 5 female students at Dundee National High School. The researcher gave each of the 5 participants in the study plenty of time to respond to their interview the question. Table 1. LNHS female students awareness to sexual harassment. Essential themes, awareness, categories, physical, thematic statement. To be safe from sexual harassment, you must know the self-defense, verbal, written. To be safe from sexual harassment, we need to not talk anyone personally or not. Table 1 shows the awareness of sexual harassment. This table tackles how female students are aware of the different types of harassment. The answer of the participants were narrowed down into 3 categories. 1. Physical. 2. Verbal and written. 3. Visual.
Table 2. Aiding sexual harassment. Essential themes. Measure of awareness. Categories. Prevention. Thematic statement. In order to prevent sexual harassment, you need to speak up and know the sign that you are being harassed. To prevent sexual harassment, attend a symposium about the awareness of sexual harassment and also for the law against harassing women. Categories. Action. Thematic statement. Report it immediately to the appropriate authorities in order to punish those who commit sexual harassment. Report it immediately to the appropriate authorities in order to punish those who commit sexual harassment. Table 2 shows the aiding sexual harassment of female student of Landi National High School. The table discussed the measure of awareness. The answer of the participants were narrowed down into the categories. 1. Prevention. 2. Actions. I will report immediately so that others will have no knowledge and they will not experience this.
Table 3. Insights. Essential themes. Knowledge about sexual harassment. Categories. Self-observation. Guidance from others. Thematic statement. For me, when any sexual contact or behavior that occurs without a person's consent is considered sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is a rape and abuse that cause trauma to those who experience it. Table 3 shows the insights of female students of Landi National High School. The table discussed the knowledge of students about sexual harassment. The answer of the participants were narrowed down into the 2 categories. 1. Self-observation. 2. Guidance from others. When you experience such as events, action, tell the teachers immediately to avoid immediately. I hope they attended the symposium about that so they know the experience because I notice now that there are many people who want to attend it like that because others say we already know that but it's better if there is something more in depth that we know about the things that can be done. Something has happened to us, and as a woman, my advice is not to trust people too much, because whether it is your friends or family, and we also see what's happening in the world today, that no lady has a choice. To avoid sexual harassment, I must say that you need to build your own wall of your protection. If there are something talking to you that you didn't know and can be trusted, just stay away from. You must know how to defend. The selected respondents of London National High School have a different insights about harassment. Based on the response of respondents, there are different understanding about sexual harassment.
Summary, conclusion, and recommendation. This chapter presents the summary of findings that answer the specific problems in Chapter 1, where conclusions are drafted from the result of findings and the recommendations suggested by the researchers. Summary of findings. This study aimed to know how female students are aware of sexual harassment at Nandi National High School. The researchers observed the conduct and approach through skill and observation. The 5 selected female students of Nandi National High School were selected to be part of this study. We believe academic institutions can successfully address the huge challenge of preventing and properly resolving sexual harassment of women at Nandi National High School, provided they show the commitment to do so. Because research demonstrates that we work to avoid sexual harassment and its effectiveness. The pattern of harassing behavior can be stopped from affecting the next generation of women entering science, engineering, and medicine by making systematic changes to the culture and atmosphere in our society, environment, and universities. In order to change the culture and climate in the workplace, it is necessary to address sexual harassment in all of its forms, not just most egregious instances. It also calls for being beyond legal compliance, assisting targets who came forward, increasing transparency and accountability, balancing the power between faculty and trainees, and making changes to organizational systems and structures to place a higher value on diversity, inclusion, and respect. Academic leadership at all levels will be required to drive these changes as well as to create the uphold culture and norms. However, for these modifications to be successful, all members, plus students at Nandi National High School, will need to take charge of fostering a peaceful and courteous environment.
Sexual harassment must end and everyone has a responsibility to do. So, we present the following collection of the report's findings, conclusion, and recommendations in this optimistic way. Conclusion. The study Sexual Harassment of Women examines the impact of workplace sexual harassment on women's ability to progress in their careers in the technical, scientific, and medical sectors. This study examines the data on the frequency of sexual harassment of women working in the medical, engineering, and scientific professions. It also examines the facts about how sexual harassment in academia affects women's access to jobs in these fields and their capacity to grow in their careers. The 3 categories of harassing behavior that constitute sexual harassment include gender harassment, hostility, objectification, exclusion, or second-class status toward members of one gender manifested through verbal or nonverbal communication, physical harassment, and cyberbullying. Recommendations. Based on the findings of the study, what women should follow to avoid sexual harassment, and this study should be implemented. Number 1. Women should be aware of sexual harassment. 2. As a woman, it is necessary to be alert to what is happening around. Number 3. Distance yourself from men and don't argue so that no more abuse will happen. Number 4. Pay attention to yourself to avoid and be safe. Number 5. If you think you are being harassed or abused, report it to your family or friends. Number 6. To prevent sexual harassment, attend a symposium about the awareness of sexual harassment and also the law against harassing women. Number 7. Report it immediately to the appropriate authorities in order to punish those who commit sexual harassment.